Hello. Let me tell you what happened in just 12 seconds that flipped an entire school on its head. A quiet kid. A hallway full of whispers. And 3 boys who thought he wouldn't fight back. But this isn't a story about violence. It's about perception. How people see you before they know you. And what happens when they realize they were dead wrong. Because after this day, the name Kareem Tolliver wouldn't just echo in the halls. It would make people pause. 12 seconds. That's all it took. But the impact? It's still being felt. Stay with me. Because once you hear what happened, you'll never forget it. Millstone High stood like a monument to suburban ambition, 3 stories of red brick and glass, manicured lawns that framed its entrance, and a flag that rose with mechanical precision each morning. Inside, the hallways buzzed with the energy of entitlement. Lockers gleamed like showroom chrome. Students walked with an ease that suggested the world already belonged to them. There were cliques and codes and unspoken rules, followed by those who had always belonged and enforced by those who thought they should. Into this world stepped Kareem Tolliver. He arrived midway through the semester with little fanfare, no tour, no welcome committee, just a printed schedule and a locker assignment that stuck out like a wrong note. His hoodie hung loose over his frame, his jeans were faded but clean, and his backpack was heavy with books and something quieter, experience. The kind that taught him to keep his head down, read the room, and say less than necessary. His eyes were observant, his steps measured. He moved like someone who understood the cost of taking up space in the wrong place. Kareem didn't come from a place like Millstone. He came from Detroit, though no one knew what that meant, not really. They thought they did. The teachers gave polite smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. The students gave looks, some curious, most cautious. Whispers bloomed faster than facts. New kid. From the city. Probably here on scholarship. Maybe got kicked out. No one asked Kareem anything. They just filled in the blanks with whatever made them feel comfortable. He found his rhythm in silence. Sat in the back row. Took notes. Turned in assignments early. At lunch, he found an empty table and claimed it without claiming attention. Most days, he ate alone. Not because he wanted to, but because it was easier that way. Then came Brock Simmons. Brock wasn't just popular, he was the kind of student Millstone made statues for. Junior year tight end, white, tall, always loud. He wore his varsity jacket like a crown and moved through the school with a confidence that came from knowing no one would question him. Beside him were Logan Ferris and Ty Marks, lesser stars in Brock's orbit, but just as eager to follow his lead. Together, they were the kind of trio that could ruin your day with a joke and never get called out for it. They noticed Kareem on his 3rd day. Not because he spoke, but because he didn't. "Yo, check out the cafeteria ghost," Brock had said loudly, pointing toward Kareem's lone table. Laughter followed. Some students joined in, others stayed quiet, but no one said anything in defense. Kareem didn't react. Just kept eating, chewing each bite slowly, like silence was armor. But Brock noticed the lack of fear. That was the problem. To Brock, confidence had to look like his. Loud, visible. Kareem's calm made him uncomfortable. There was no flinch. No reaction. And to someone like Brock, that was a challenge. Over the next week, the whispers sharpened. In gym, Brock made sure Kareem got paired with him for basketball drills. He tossed the ball harder than necessary. Kareem caught it without comment. Passed it back clean. "That all you got?" Brock sneered. Kareem just nodded. "We're just passing, right?" The tension built slow, like steam in a sealed room. Not a fight, yet. But something was building. Something quiet. Careful. Inevitable. What no one at Millstone saw was what Kareem did after school. Each evening, after the last bell, He caught the number 12 bus to the edge of town, where an old boxing gym sat behind a tire shop. There, under the hum of fluorescent lights and the smell of leather and sweat, Kareem hit pads in silence. His uncle, Reggie, coached from the sidelines, not with shouts, but with nods. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. Kareem didn't fight for show. He trained for control. Millstone didn't know that yet. But it would. The tension in Millstone High didn't explode all at once. It built in whispers, glances, and the slow, deliberate way eyes followed Kareem through the halls like he was a storm cloud that didn't belong in their sunny forecast. By the second week, the comments weren't just jokes. They were tests. "Yo, Detroit," Brock called out in the hallway one morning, his voice loud enough to echo off the lockers. "You bring your bulletproof vest, or you leave that back home with the rest of your hood gear." Laughter. Slaps on the back. Logan howled like it was the funniest thing he'd heard all year. Ty leaned against a locker, chewing gum, watching for Kareem's reaction. But Kareem didn't react. Not outwardly. He kept walking, backpack slung over one shoulder, hoodie up just enough to shield the side of his face. But inside, something twisted, tight, sharp. Not anger exactly. Not yet. It was the weight of knowing that if he spoke, if he moved wrong, everything could go sideways. And Millstone wasn't built to catch him if he fell. At home that night, Uncle Reggie watched him wrap his hands slower than usual. "You holdin' it in," he said, not as a question, but as a truth. Kareem nodded. "Trying." Reggie nodded once. "You remember what I told you?" Kareem repeated the words quietly. "Power ain't in the punch. It's in the choice." "That's right. Don't let them pull you down where they already standing." But by Friday, Brock was done waiting for Kareem to break. That morning, someone had written charity case on Kareem's locker in red marker. By third period, rumors had spread that he had a criminal record. That he'd been kicked out of 3 schools. That he'd fought a teacher in 8th grade. None of it was true. But truth didn't matter. Not here. In history class, Brock leaned over his desk and whispered just loud enough, "You ever seen a real fight, Tolliver?" Kareem stared ahead. "Yeah," he said. "You don't want that kind." That was the moment it shifted. Brock's smirk faltered. Just a flicker, but it was there. By the end of the day, it was more than words. Kareem had stayed late to help Mr. Patel move desks behind the gym. No one had asked him to. He just preferred quiet corners, places where people weren't watching, where he didn't have to pretend not to hear or feel. But when he stepped outside into the cold, overcast afternoon, the lot had mostly cleared. Only a few late buses rumbled in the distance. The air felt heavier somehow. Then he saw them. Brock. Logan. Ty. They were waiting by the dumpsters, standing too still, hands in their jacket pockets like they were just killing time. But Kareem knew better. You don't grow up in Detroit without learning how to read posture like body language is a second language. And right now, every line in their stance spelled trouble. He kept walking, slow and steady. "Hey," Brock called. Kareem stopped 10 feet away. "What do you want? You think you're better than us?" Brock stepped forward. "I didn't come here for you. You act like you did." Silence pulsed between them. A low hum in the air. Kareem could feel his heartbeat in his fingertips. His breath stayed slow, but his senses sharpened. Every movement. Every sound. Logan moved first, a shove to Kareem's chest. Not hard. Not meant to hurt. Meant to provoke. Kareem didn't move. "Back up," he said quietly. Brock laughed. "Go on, Logan." Another step forward. Another shove. This time rougher. Kareem's hand twitched. His feet adjusted instinctively. Balance, posture, breath. Don't swing. Don't snap. You don't get to walk around like you're untouchable, Brock said, stepping closer. This is our school. Kareem's fists stayed at his sides, but his knuckles whitened under the wraps. He didn't want this fight. But he could feel it coming. And deep inside, a part of him, one he hadn't let out in a long time, was ready. The air behind Millstone High was sharp and cold, the kind that cut into the skin and made every breath visible. Kareem stood still in it, 10 feet from the trio that had decided he was a target. Brock Simmons led, hands still tucked in his varsity jacket, the look on his face one of someone who believed the outcome was already written. Logan Ferris shifted from foot to foot, eager and sloppy. Ty Marks hung back, silent, chewing his gum like he didn't have a stake in what was about to happen. Kareem didn't move. "Come on, man," Brock said, voice rising. "Say something. You too good to talk now." Kareem's voice was even. "I don't want any trouble." Brock smiled at that. A cruel kind of smile. "Yeah. Trouble already found you." Then Logan charged. It wasn't clean, wasn't planned. Just a shove with both hands aimed at Kareem's chest, enough to knock someone off balance, maybe onto the frozen ground. But Kareem had spent too many hours in his uncle's gym, too many nights drilling footwork and defense. He pivoted, let the force pass through him, and stepped aside like water slipping around a stone. "Back up," Kareem warned again, low and clear. But now they were laughing. Logan red-faced, embarrassed. Brock throwing another comment to keep his pride intact. "You afraid to fight, Detroit? Or just too soft without a gun?" Kareem's heart pounded, not from fear, but from control. Every instinct screamed to finish this fast. But control was the difference between walking away and being walked away in cuffs. Logan came at him again, this time with a wild, crooked punch aimed at Kareem's shoulder. It never landed. Kareem's body moved before his thoughts did. He stepped in, twisted under Logan's arm, grabbed his wrist with one hand, and swept a leg behind Logan's ankle. Logan hit the pavement hard, shoulder and hip first. The wind rushed out of him in a grunt. His face twisted in shock, pain, disbelief. 12 seconds. That's all it took. Ty's mouth opened, a word forming but never finishing. Brock surged forward, his anger outweighing his sense. He swung high, telegraphed, wide, desperate. Kareem ducked. Slid under. Pivoted. Elbow to the ribs. Not hard enough to break anything, just enough to stop the next attack. Brock stumbled. One knee hit the ground. His face was twisted, not with pain, but humiliation. Ty froze. Kareem stood still. His fists never clenched. He didn't yell. Didn't taunt. He just breathed, deep and heavy, like every breath was part of a larger effort not to lose control. That's when Mr. Langford, the assistant principal, came around the corner. "What's going on here?" he barked, stopping short at the sight. Logan was on the ground, groaning. Brock on one knee. Ty, frozen. Kareem, standing. Brock stood up fast, shaking with rage. "He jumped us," he shouted. "Dude's crazy." Kareem turned to him slowly. "You serious?" "I didn't do nothing." Brock snapped. "He's crazy, man." Langford looked at Kareem, then at the others. No blood. No black eyes. But tension so thick it could be touched. "Inside," he said. "All of you." The walk to the office was silent. In the waiting room, Logan had already called his dad. Ty looked at the floor. Brock muttered under his breath again and again, "He's dead. He's done." Kareem said nothing. Inside the office, Langford sat across from him, eyes narrowed. "Want to tell me what happened?" Kareem told the truth. Calm. Straightforward. No dramatics. Just facts. Langford listened. His fingers steepled beneath his chin. Then he sighed. You know we've got a zero-tolerance policy here, right? He said. I didn't start it. Langford nodded slowly, eyes distant. Doesn't matter who starts it, Kareem. What matters is who finishes it. Kareem looked down for the first time, then back up. Maybe you should talk to the ones who never tried to stop it. That gave Langford pause. Just a breath. Just enough. Because for the first time, someone had said it out loud. And for the first time since arriving at Millstone High, Kareem wasn't just surviving the silence. He was breaking it. By Monday morning, the fight behind the gym had evolved from whispered rumor to full-blown legend. Millstone High, with its polished halls and pristine reputation, had never seen anything like it. Kareem Tolliver, the quiet kid, the outsider, was now something else. Not a troublemaker. Not a victim. Something more complicated. More unsettling. Students moved out of his way in the hallway now, not because they were afraid he'd swing again, he never really had, but because he had shattered the unspoken order of things. At Millstone, kids like Brock Simmons didn't get dropped. Not by new students. Not by quiet ones. Not by black boys who kept their heads down and their voices low. But Kareem had done it. Clean. Quick. Controlled. And now the silence was louder than it had ever been. At lunch, he walked into the cafeteria like always, alone. Only this time, no one laughed. No one whispered about his food. The table he sat at. Empty. Not because he wanted it that way, but because no one wanted to sit next to someone who had shown, even for 12 seconds, that he wasn't going to play the role they'd written for him. The administration had moved quickly to contain the story. Mr. Langford pulled all 4 boys into the office again before first period, this time with Principal Denning present. The message was clear, this would be handled quietly. No suspensions, Denning had said, adjusting his tie with an awkward smile. But you'll all receive behavior reports on file. Let's consider this a learning opportunity. Brock had nodded eagerly, grateful to avoid real consequences. Kareem had stared straight ahead. No apology. No acknowledgement of what led to the fight. Just equal blame passed around like a punishment shared equally made it more fair. Afterward, Mr. Langford caught Kareem in the hallway. You should feel lucky, Kareem, he said, voice low. This could have gone differently. A lot differently. Kareem knew what he meant. If Logan had hit his head harder. If Brock had cried foul louder. If a teacher had arrived 5 seconds earlier or 5 seconds later. It didn't matter who threw the first shove. What mattered was that Kareem was the one who walked away standing. At home, Uncle Reggie listened quietly as Kareem explained everything. Reggie didn't interrupt once. Just sat at the edge of the ring in his gym, one hand resting on a worn pair of focus mitts. When Kareem finished, Reggie nodded. You handled it clean. Doesn't feel like it matters, Kareem said. Reggie raised an eyebrow. You think the goal is to feel better about it? Nah. The goal's to walk away knowing you did what you had to. Not more. Not less. Kareem leaned against the wall, staring at the floor. They still think I'm a problem. Reggie leaned forward. They always will, nephew. Until you're not. Kareem frowned. What does that even mean? It means you're already written in their story. Wrong role, wrong script. Doesn't matter how good you are or how quiet you stay, some folks only know how to read fear. And right now, they're reading you loud. That night, Kareem didn't train. He sat in his room, scrolling through social media. Someone had posted about the fight. No video, thank God, but the post was spreading. Detroit kid snapped. Took Brock down like a pro. 12 seconds. Didn't even swing twice. I heard his uncle's some kind of boxer or Navy SEAL or something. The rumors were rewriting themselves, faster than Kareem could ever correct them. His silence had kept him safe, until it made him dangerous. And now the school wasn't sure what to do with him. In first period Tuesday morning, the teacher asked a discussion question about injustice in To Kill a Mockingbird. A few hands went up. Kareem didn't raise his. But his presence in the room made the silence different. Like everyone was waiting. Watching. Testing. He felt it in the way the teacher's eyes skipped over him. In the way the class stayed quieter than usual. In the way Brock, sitting 2 rows back with a bruised ego and a healing rib, didn't say a word. And Kareem realized something important. The fight was over. But the battle? The battle had only just begun. The school had moved on. That's what it looked like on the surface. The lockers still slammed shut with the same hollow echo. The bells still rang with robotic regularity. Students still laughed in corners, flirted in stairwells, raced down hallways between periods. But for Kareem Tolliver, Millstone High had changed. So had he. His name wasn't whispered anymore. It was avoided. He was no longer the new kid from Detroit. He was the one who put Brock Simmons on the ground in 12 seconds. The one who didn't flinch when tested. The one people didn't know what to do with. They left him space. Too much space. Even the teachers began handling him differently. Mrs. Pennington, his English teacher, now made awkward eye contact too often. Mr. Alvarez, his science teacher, started talking to him with measured politeness, like Kareem was made of glass, or explosives. They weren't afraid of violence. They were afraid of misreading him. Because nothing about Kareem had changed. He still took notes with quiet focus. Still turned in assignments early. Still ate alone, tray balanced on one hand as he picked the quietest corner of the lunchroom. He still spoke only when necessary, still moved with careful intention. But now, his silence was no longer invisible. It was interpreted. Misinterpreted. Brock returned to the halls 2 days later, bruised pride and bandaged ego hidden under that same varsity jacket. But something was different in his eyes too. Not fear. Not regret. Resentment. The kind that simmers, waits, plots. He passed Kareem in the hallway without a word. But his silence screamed. It didn't take long for Kareem to notice something else, a new twist to the story. Whispers began reappearing, rebranded, weaponized differently. He's dangerous. Why isn't anyone doing anything? What if he snaps again? That was the irony. He hadn't snapped. He had defended himself with precision, with discipline. He'd held back. But restraint didn't matter to people already scared of a version of him they'd made up. On Friday, the principal made an announcement over the loudspeaker. A new student mediation program would begin to address growing tensions and conflicts on campus. It was vague. Too vague. Everyone knew what it was about. Kareem's name was never mentioned. But the message was clear. That afternoon, he was called to the counselor's office. Mrs. Delaney smiled as he walked in. She was young, enthusiastic, and tried too hard to appear casual. "Hi, Kareem. How are you doing this week?" He shrugged. "Fine. I just wanted to check in. See how you're adjusting. You've been through quite a bit." He sat down across from her, back straight, eyes steady. "I'm good." She fumbled with her pen. "We're here to support you, you know. If you ever want to talk about anything." Kareem didn't nod. Didn't thank her. Because he knew what this was. They weren't worried about how he was feeling. They were worried about what he might do next. That night, he told Reggie about it over dinner. His uncle chewed slowly, then wiped his mouth with a napkin. "You know what this is, right?" Kareem looked up. Yeah. They don't want to understand you. They want to control the story. Kareem stared down at his plate. So what do I do? Reggie leaned forward. You make sure you tell it. That stuck. Over the weekend, Kareem pulled out a notebook. Not for school. For him. Page after page, he wrote, not just about the fight, but about everything. The hallway stairs. The jokes. The way silence was misread. He wrote the truth in the only way he could fully control it. And on Monday morning, he handed that truth to someone who couldn't ignore it. Mrs. Pennington blinked when she saw his name on the paper. What's this? My story, he said simply. For the next writing assignment. Thought I'd get a head start. She read the title, 12 Seconds. Her hands hesitated. And Kareem watched her face as she began to read. Word spread fast. By the end of the day, his piece had circulated through the English department. By Tuesday, the principal had a copy. By Wednesday, the student newspaper asked to publish it. Kareem said yes, on one condition, it be printed unabridged. No edits. No softening. No names removed. It ran Friday morning. The headline in bold letters, 12 Seconds, a personal account of silence, power, and survival at Millstone High. By lunch, everyone had read it. The story didn't glorify the fight. It didn't accuse anyone by name. It laid out facts. The jokes. The pressure. The shoves. The restraint. It told the truth not to spark drama, but to demand understanding. It didn't just make waves. It changed the tide. The silence around Kareem shifted again, not out of fear this time, but awareness. Some avoided his gaze still. But others nodded. A few even spoke to him, genuinely. Not everyone, not overnight. But something had cracked open. And most importantly, the story now belonged to him. Brock said nothing. But he didn't sneer anymore. He passed Kareem in the hallway, kept walking, head slightly down. That was enough. Weeks passed. The noise faded. Spring crept in. And on one quiet afternoon, as Kareem left school, a voice called out. Hey! He turned. A younger student, maybe a freshman. Nervous, shifting his backpack strap. I read your story, the kid said. It helped. Kareem didn't say much. Just nodded. That evening, he walked into his uncle's gym and wrapped his hands the way he always did. The silence felt different now, not heavy, but full. Like a space waiting to be filled. 12 seconds, Reggie said, tossing him the mitts. That's all it took, huh? Kareem smiled faintly. That's where it started. And with that, he stepped forward, not into a fight, but into his own future. And just like that. In 12 seconds, Kareem didn't just defend himself. He exposed something deeper. How fear, silence, and stereotypes can hold more power in a school hallway than any punch ever could. He didn't fight to win. He fought to be seen. And in the end, the story wasn't about the shove, the strike, or the fall. It was about standing back up. And telling the truth. Because sometimes, survival isn't just physical. It's about holding on to your dignity in a world that tries to take it from you. Now it's your turn. What would you have done in Kareem's shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I read every single one. And if this story hit you somewhere deep, give it a like, share it, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories just like this. Thanks for listening. Until the next video, stay aware, stay human, and stay strong. Goodbye.